So, okay, testing. Cool. Panel, first we have to address the problem of today's debate. We have to address that the stakeholders within this debate are children within communities who are more likely to be indigenous, minorities who have lower socio-economic backgrounds, who face the problems of needing to escape harsh economic conditions, and the tool that we try to use here is that education is a tool to escape these economic inequalities within these kind of communities. Therefore, we inside opening government would like to propose saying that these parents should actually have the incentives to discourage their children from pursuing all these majors with low employability rate. Instead, they will actually encourage their children to pursue degrees with with higher economic values for the betterment of their children's future. So what I'm going to do today is actually going to tell you why it's easier for children in why these kind of economic degrees will provide all these children for financial support. And this is a strictly value judgment debate where we have to compare how these degrees that have economic value, that have a high value in the economy, in compared to degrees that with low employability rate or low economic value, and which one is better for the children to pursue, especially for children for low socioeconomic background. So let's just also clear out that what this debate must tackle. So we have to assume that this debate revolves around children who are going to likely to graduate from high school. Therefore, they have their ability to pursue a degree and also graduate from university. So this is the caveat that government will actually lay down, that this debate must operate where that these children have the ability to graduate from high school and also pursue a degree and graduate from university. So how will then opening government present our arguments? Firstly, in this lens of the parents and how this is a tool for harm minimization. So parents have the moral obligation to be the beneficiaries for these children in the first place. They have the duty to ensure that their children are going to have a better future and also to escape inequality within society, and also due to the current socioeconomic background, for example, they're already poor or disenfranchised, therefore using education as a tool to escape these kinds of socioeconomic instability. So I'm going to explain to you how these children aren't able to rationalize. I'll tell you later. Why aren't able to rationalize when making a decision in pursuing a degree? For example, most children when they want to actually choose a degree, most probably are driven by, for example, your passion, your talent, or maybe your friends influence you, telling you that you should do this, you should take arts because it's fun, or probably they choose based on their own biases. For example, they admire an artist, therefore they want to be an artist, or they want to be an historian because probably they like reading. Most probably those kind of biases are what children see. They don't see the outcomes of what they're going to be and how the employability rate will be, or how they will be employed in the future. So this is where parents come in. They will be directly intervening and also discouraging these children to take all these major low employability, low economic value degrees, because we think that the best case scenario is the active intervention from parents number one, children are going to change their minds and therefore pursue this particular degree which have high economic value, for example, your law degrees, your engineering, and also maybe your medicine. Therefore, these children will then uplift their socioeconomic and have capital in order to sustain their jobs. Second, the worst case scenario in our house is that these children don't want to listen to their parents. Probably that their children think that it's something that they can maybe they don't want to listen to their parents, they don't want to do law, they don't want to do engineering. But then in the end of the day, when they actually pursue all these degrees who have low economic values, they will then realize the circumstances and also understand that their choices do have a negative effect. For example, they are unemployed maybe after their graduation, therefore they don't have enough capital to sustain their lives because of the choices and circumstances of their choices. But this is still beneficial outside the house because parents still have an active act to intervene and also tell their children, rather than just be complacent and let their children decide whatever they want. Also, what lies the value of harm minimization then? Because when when you pursue a degree in low employability, you cannot access to jobs, you cannot access to self-actualization, you cannot access to your empowerment, especially when you come from low-income families or minorities, where most probably money is the reason, or money and also proper education of who you are is the ladder for you to gain success and also to gain any economic standpoint in life. So if parents don't intervene, then therefore they'll be seen as complacent, because there'll be two ways. One, because parents have a moral obligation to do so, as parents are the beneficiary of these children. So when parents just let their children choose, especially when they choose low value economic value degrees, they'll be seen complacent, and their children will likely um, will likely be affected by these choices. And second, the emotional harms that these children will then face. For example, if their children already know undergo these circumstances, for example, they take a art degree, and without their parents tell them not to do so, even though their parents are fully aware that people are going to be unemployed and how art students do have like low employability rate, but they still let their children do anyway. So what the actualization that these children understand that these parents didn't do anything to stop them will then tell the children, and also resonates the message saying that their parents didn't do anything, therefore I shouldn't trust my parents, therefore my parents don't care about me, why didn't you tell me sooner, I was just a child, or maybe I didn't know better. So those kinds of messages and also kinds of feelings that children will then feel if their parents end up being complacent and not actively intervene for this thing. But before that, since 6, any POIs? No? Okay. Moving on to the second argument, first side opening government, is how valuable are these degrees in the first place? So I already told you how the debate must assure that we have to assume that these children will actually graduate from high school and also graduate from university. So several levels on how valuable this degree and how impactful these degrees are for these children. So sure, the degree with high economic values is good because one, you're more likely to have high paying jobs because of the demand, for example, in engineering, or in STEM, or maybe in finance, or science, actuarial science. So these kinds of jobs are already high in demand in the market already. So therefore, the likelihood that these kids will then graduate with high-paying jobs, which ensures them, for example, more lobbying power, more participation in communities, to uplift communities, especially, for example, to be a lawyer from indigenous communities, to actually advocate and also do pro bono cases within your indigenous communities. Those kinds of advantages and benefits are limited only because you're taking a high economic value degree. And with that, I'm proud to propose.
Great. I'd like to thank the Prime Minister for their speech, and I would like to welcome the Leader of Opposition.
Note that the entirety of government's case and their benefits are premised upon the absurd link that just because these parents coerce or force their children to pursue like high employability jobs, it automatically means these individuals are going to gain like a lot of wealth that is going to give them social mobility, and that is going to eventually give them meaning in life. We question this premise. Before I move on to my rebuttals and two arguments, firstly, a setup of what parents in our world would do. This means that they would encourage their children, individuals, to choose what job they want. Parents would also inform these children of the implications of these jobs, but they wouldn't like directly coerce these children into not going into these low employability jobs. Next, rebuttals. So firstly, we heard principle of moral obligation by parents. Note that this principle only operates on the outcomes that result in these individuals breaking out of the poverty cycle. If this doesn't happen, and we prove to you that individuals will still be stuck in the cycle of poverty, we tell you this principle falls. Secondly, they told us about how children cannot choose rationally. Two levels of responses. Firstly, by the time they make the decision that about which degree they want to pursue, we tell you they are already at a reasonable age where they're able to make reasonable decisions, like late teens, like 17 or 18. But secondly, if it's true, even if it's true that individuals want to choose based on their interests or talent, we tell you this is good, and we'll prove to you how like how they can get more self-actualization and more tangible economic benefits, the point in which they choose to pursue degrees based on their interests and talent rather than being forced to by their parents. Two arguments in my speech. Firstly, how the ability for individuals to find meaning and self-actualization is premised upon them choosing what they want to do, and secondly, how this translates into upliftment and gives them social mobility, right? First argument, the ability for individuals to find meaning and self-actualization is premised on them choosing. We'll give you a few reasons. First level of analysis will give you a few reasons as to why, even if these children pursue high employability jobs, they aren't likely to succeed. First reason is because education is expensive. Understanding that these individuals come from lower socio-economic backgrounds, it means it's hard for them to access like medical school or law school. But even if they do, the types of university that they can access is like severely lower quality than the rest of the competition. Secondly, these jobs are also all about connections. This means that compared to a privileged individual or compared to a person from middle class, you as a socio-economic individual, as a low socio-economic individual, will never be able to have enough connections and compared to privileged individuals. This means it's harder for you to find an actual job. Third reason is because the point in which you have a concentrated job market where everybody flocks to these high employability jobs, it means the most vulnerable individuals are essentially locked out of the ability to access these jobs because of the fact that they are disadvantaged. Fourth reason, even if you manage to find a good job after all this, we tell you as a person from a low socioeconomic background, you will be thrown into a lower position. This means that you have less pay, like less authority. We tell you the ability to get economic benefits is harder. What are the impacts of this argument? Firstly, we question the premise that having wealth translates into self-actualization and finding meaning in life, right? A few reasons. Firstly, it's because we tell you, we've proven to you that even if you do manage to get a job, you will still be locked in a 9-to-5 job. And we told you that wages won't be good. Tell you that economic sustenance and benefits is largely mitigated in their world, regardless of what employability job you go to, because of the fact you come from a low socio-economic background. At the very least, your ability to survive and put food on the table in their world is largely mitigated because of your background. But secondly, this is antithetical to their interests. Because of the fact that you are coerced or you are forced by your parents to find a job, it also means that you live a life devoid of meaning because you find no interest in your job. You find no ability to self-actualize and find meaning in the job that you were forced to do or that you are not interested in. This means you're unable to self-actualize, and we question their benefit of them being able to find meaning in their life. What is the comparative in our world? We understand that there are two possible scenarios: one in which these individuals actually succeed, and two in the world where these individuals fail. To prove to you why these individuals succeed will be so beneficial not only for these individuals but for everybody on the ground later. But in a world where these individuals fail, I tell you that failure in our world is better than the meager success they can get in their world. The point in which you gain happiness in what you're studying is because of the fact that you're interested in what you do. We tell you this is the point in which you gain more meaning in your life and more self-actualization. Tell you this is the only thing that this is the main benefit we would argue for in this debate. Why was this benefit of self-actualization so important? It's because meaning in your life and actualization is realistically the most important and immediate benefit we can grant to these individuals. Note that we gave you structural reasons as to why it was so hard for them to break out of this poverty cycle. This means that meaning and self-actualization in their life is so important. But second argument, how this translates into upliftment and social mobility. This argument is premised upon individuals that come from low socioeconomic backgrounds are also minorities. So our first level of analysis about how these individuals can actually break the ceiling of poverty. First, two reasons. Firstly, is because you have the drive and inspiration to do so. The point at which you have the ability to choose what you want, it means two things. Firstly, you are able to put in more time and effort, and subconsciously you want it and aren't against it. This means it's likely to translate into better performance, like a better quality of work. It means you're able to succeed. But secondly, the benefits of this. Not only are these individuals directly benefit because of the fact they find meaning in what they do, and secondly, because they have much better economic sustenance, because of the exclusivity of these jobs, we tell you it's an improvement in salary, improvement in status in society. Second benefit benefit for people on the ground. Even if these individuals don't succeed in what they do, we tell you this translates into two benefits. Firstly, the benefit of representation. The point in which there's one individual out of 100 like breaking the ceiling of poverty, we tell you this shatters stereotypes. This means that they aren't useless. It's not their choice to remain in poverty. They are less likely to be discriminated against the type of jobs they get. Secondly, it's entirely empowering. We tell you, for people living in abject poverty, people who previously felt that they couldn't achieve success in this oppressive world, at the point in which you have one person breaking the ceiling and breaking the stereotype, this is the kind of empowerment. This is the world where they are likely to strive, or at least strive for success and breakthrough. But my second speaker will elaborate more about the benefits. So for all those reasons, I've never been prouder to oppose.
Great. I'd like to thank the Leader of Opposition and welcome the Deputy Prime Minister. Oh, sorry. Okay, someone says that they can't hear. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me right now?
Hey, so is there a problem on my side?
Someone says I can't
Wait.
hear.
Can you guys hear me now? Okay, I fixed it.
Yeah, I can hear that.
Okay. Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, I
Okay.
can hear quite clearly.
Okay.
Hang on a second, just. Okay, sorry, who's speaking next? Why isn't...
It's me. I'm speaking next.
Sorry, it's not coming up on my Zoom. What's your name?
Hafiz Riza.
Okay.
Can you see me now?
Yeah,
Okay.
I can see you now. Okay, cool. Sorry about that. I'd like to welcome the Deputy Prime Minister.
From opening government, we have one goal, is to explain why degrees with high economic value will achieve the best political, social, and economic outcomes to these communities. And it is very unfortunate that the opening opposition is not comparative in terms of explaining how valuable is self-actualization to these children, knowing that they are less likely going to get jobs, or even if they are able to graduate with these degrees, they still will have to face the stiff competition of getting a sociology job or getting a fine degrees placement in an art school. So we think, with that in mind, rebuttals. Firstly, is this main criticism from opening opposition in regards to there are limited slots in universities that offer STEM courses, or even if they are in these courses, they will still have to compete with privileged students who can access tuition or like other forms of help, and therefore they are likely going to graduate from these universities in an unsatisfactory way. That means that they are less likely going to get jobs. I have several layers of responses to that. Firstly, is that this debate must reasonably assume that these children are able to enter into high school and graduate high school in such a way whereby they can enter into universities, and therefore after that they can graduate from universities in a satisfactory way, in such a way that they're able to get jobs in these industries. Because if you don't accept this, then the harms are symmetrical to opening opposition and closing opposition as well, which is to say that they cannot argue then that these people are able to get a sociology degree and get a job based on sociology or fine arts or history. So they must accept that these children are capable of entering university and getting these degrees, then only all their benefits can exist as well. But even if you don't buy that assumption, right, we would say that there are a lot more protege programs or apprenticeship programs or financial help or scholarships afforded to these programs more in comparison to programs that are in fine arts or in history. So we think that there are a lot more opportunities offered for low-income students to be able to get a degree in engineering, because there are a lot more help offered to help these communities get placement in universities and get opportunities in these industries. So we think that on a comparison, we think it is far easier for these children to get a degree in engineering because there are a lot more help and attention from companies who want to compete to get the best graduates. We think that on a comparison, more financial help are directed to these specific industries. The second is this assumption of, oh, they are less likely going to be happy because they are forced. Look, we don't have to define a world whereby these children are forced to enter into STEM courses, right? Because we would reasonably assume that a discouragement would mean that you just force them to confront how bleak their degrees are. So we think that the best case scenario of opening government is that most children are going to listen to these parents and pursue a degree with high economic value. And that's a good thing. But even if we have to define our worst case, right, which is say that the children are adamant on pursuing a degree on history or fine arts, at least the comparison in ours is that the children are confronted on how big these industries are, how tough the competition is, how limited slots are in these industries. So we think that if they are adamant about their decision, we think that it is far more satisfactory for them to pursue this on their own, knowing that they have confronted these hurdles on their own. We think that they are more likely going to be happier with the decision, knowing that their parents confront them as to how big these industries are. So we win on opening opposition's metric on like their concern about meaning on pursuing these degrees. We think that they are more likely going to be satisfactory if we confront them on how big these industries are to begin with. And also, I think that the opening opposition that didn't respond to any of our analysis at all to explain why parents should not only act in a fiduciary way, but also discourage these things to begin with. Because notice that these children often overestimate their talents and skills, or they are brought up in an environment whereby they're comfortable with the people who are likely going to like the same things as they are, and therefore no one challenges them to say that like, oh, fine arts is not a good of a degree in order for you to be able to achieve economic stability. We think that the job of the parents then is to remind them that there are other possible choices that these children can enter, or maybe to confront them of their talents and their interests, or to at least remind them that there are other choices that they can enter. We think that the fiduciary duty is essential in order for the children to process the best decisions from themselves. Again, no response from the opening opposition. No argumentation in terms of explaining why this individually benefits them. Because on a comparison, right, even if we say that like they have to face stiff competition within these industries, the best case scenario is that these children are able to access a higher paying job in comparison to a sociology job, because there are a lot more industries concentrated on STEM or humanity or law or finance or actual science. There's a demand for these graduates, or companies themselves compete to get graduates and therefore they're incentivized to offer higher wages, or there's an incentive to develop skills that is say that they are able to establish networks and connections and grassroots support in order for them to get graduates easily. So we think it is far easier for these graduates to get jobs in comparison to a world whereby these industries have not established the essential network and connections to funnel graduates from these universities. So we think on a comparison, it's easier for graduates to get jobs if they have a degree of high economic value. That translates to higher paying jobs, that could translate to more individuals' choices being met, or higher access to information that allows them to make decisions better, or even like helping communities, right? For example, the fact that they are more able to give legal advice to communities, or like maybe dissect economic theory if they are economists, or if they are indigenous economists, and they say, oh, this economic theory is not cognizant to the needs of the indigenous people. Maybe I can present a new economic theory, right? We think the opportunity afforded by these people when they have a degree of high economic value is far greater in comparison to a sociology degree or whatever it is that the opening opposition claims to be happiness. But in clashing with opening opposition, right, even if they say that in our world people are less happy because they have to cope with the pressures of these industries, one, they have more money to get professional help, and the social circles they are able to enter affords them more help. But secondly, they can channel their frustration on materialism, capitalism, so it's far easier for them to be able to become happy, right? Versus the comparison whereby they have to be stuck in a low-paying job, they have very low self-esteem because they put themselves in that position whereby they have a low-paying job, know that they are unsatisfied with their performance because they're constantly stuck with no career progression. We think they are more unhappy in the world of opening opposition. Before I move on, any questions? Oh, it's already time. The point of this is to say that it's better in our world, very proud to propose.
Okay, I'd like to thank the Deputy Prime Minister and welcome Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Sorry, just my Zoom is being super annoying. Okay, when you're ready.
Madam Chair, this is a debate about poor individuals. Individuals who are already locked out of capital and cannot ascertain jobs that can give them a good pay, right? We think that this is a debate about which side can better attain meaning and happiness in a world that is already stacked against poor individuals, already stacked against minority. We believe that we want to empower children through being able to ascertain this meaning to begin with. They wanted to say that we wanted to say that capitalism already disenfranchises people. They play with the game of the elites. We side with the vulnerable. A few things I'll do in my speech today. Number one, they tried to misrepresent what our setup was, because understand that we were for choice. That's to say that even though our parents would inform their children about the implications of their jobs, they would ultimately want to side with them. They wanted to support a really soft case, because Fred came up and said, look, we don't have to force these individuals. But if you notice the analysis coming from opening government, if they really want their benefits to materialize throughout society, they necessarily have to have more people going towards these jobs. That means that they necessarily have to side with the side that encourages these people to all turn towards those jobs, a soft case that they wanted to defend. The next thing I want to note is that they keep talking about parents have a moral obligation for their children. We already said that this was contingent on outcomes, and we prove why necessarily they do not materialize these things. It's not a contentious argument. The third thing to note is that they said, look, right, these individuals can already attain high school. They can already attain scholarships and those sorts of things. This is not comparative because of the multiple layers of analysis Avinash already gave you on number one, why the schools that poor individuals go into are already not as good. If you're a poor individual, you're not going to be able to pay the $60,000 that Harvard asked for you to get into medical school. But it's also about connections that you get as an individual, right? It's also about the sorts of resources that you can get access to. They weren't comparative. The last thing to note is that they said, look, you cannot ascertain high-paying jobs and therefore you are unable to self-actualize. Madam Chair, this is a deeply elitist conception of what happiness means. We do not believe that material wealth is sufficient to human happiness. That is why many individuals in a country like Bhutan are far happier than individuals in Hong Kong, because being able to do things like yoga, being able to meditate is what is able to garner them the sort of happiness that we believe is more valuable on the outside of the house. I'll explain that in my speech. Two arguments to elaborate on. Number one, why we empower individuals through being able to ascertain meaning, and secondly, why we liberate poor and marginalized communities through the mobilization of trailblazers. On the first, how we empower individuals through being able to ascertain meaning. The unique nuance and premise of this argument is understand that the poor are systematically disenfranchised on both sides of the house, right? They will find it harder than their white counterparts to succeed on both sides of the house. Therefore, this must be a comparison in which side they're being able to live better lives. We already gave you systematic reasons as to why, even if these poor individuals were to pursue a job with high employability, maybe go to medical school or turn to an engineering degree, they are not going to be able to be that successful. So we gave you reasons. Number one, we believe that the education that you access as an individual is very important. You are more likely as a poor black individual going to go to a public school in which drugs and crime is very rampant, as compared to be able to go to like a high paid college in the UK, right? Like Eton College whatsoever. It's secondly about the connection. So if you want to get a high paying job that they want to talk about, so get into managerial positions or CEOs, you probably need connections. You need to be able to go up to your bosses and talk to them, go out for lunch with them. You are less likely going to be able to do this at a point at which they do not want to associate with you as a poorer individual, right? But thirdly, it's if they want their material benefits to succeed and everyone flocks towards these jobs, we think that that's where you disenfranchise more vulnerable people because of the increased competition on their side. What are outcomes of this? Number one, we think that more people are likely to be unemployed on their side of the house, but even if we take them at their very best case scenario, let's say more people get employed, we think that for all the structural reasons we gave you as to why they're unable to succeed within these jobs, they're probably going to remain in lower paying jobs. So they're unable to become a doctor, right? They're probably going to be a partner, or a low paying nurse that assists the doctor. These sorts of things are not problematic. But on a metaphysical level, we think they're also coerced into jobs that are antithetical to their interests. They're unmotivated and uninspired and do not live good lives, right? What is the comparative on the outside of the house? We believe that maybe our very worst case scenario is that we do not get more jobs, right? But, do not get higher paying jobs. But just mitigation, right? We think that we are still able to access, right? So it might look like an author being to sell books in his community. Maybe he doesn't make as much as the person on their side of the house, but we believe that in these instances, when the poor are already materially deprived, happiness and meaning is what's best able to liberate themselves from suffering, right? That's why individuals like Rockefeller is still deeply insufficient when he's a billionaire, and poorer individuals who can live a communitarian lifestyle are very much happier. Happiness is more important in this instance because the material odds are already stacked against them. Second argument, right? Why we liberate poor and marginalized communities from suffering through trailblazers. Understand the premise, right, is that the poor will never succeed to great heights if they're already coerced into positions or jobs in which they hate. So maybe you work as a low-paying nurse, but you do not enjoy that job and you're unable to want to have the sort of drive to succeed. What is the nuance on the outside of the house? We said we won't get lots of trailblazers, but Avi already told you a few number of them are able to make drastic changes to the socio-political landscape. This nuance only happens when individuals dedicate their life to a cause or are deeply inspired on the outside of the house. That can only happen when parents prioritize choice. What does this look like? We believe individuals can succeed at a point at which they can actively ascertain their meaning. This looks like Obama. Politics was never a job in which you had high employability, but he decided to go for it. And when he became president, he's able to make the sort of change that he can enact through policies, through legislature, those sorts of things. It looks like Oprah Winfrey. Being a talk show host was never a job with higher employability, but she decided to actively pursue it because it was something that she loved. She was then able to talk about things like affirmative action and bring attention to the plight of suffering of individuals on the ground. It looks like LeBron James. Basketball was never something that had high employability. They wanted to side with engineering. He's able to do things that promise a child campaign, which gives individuals in poorer minority schools access to things like school lunches and extra tuition fees. Government denies these people the opportunity to have a chance to success to begin with because they lock individuals into jobs in which they do not enjoy. We believe that their grassroots on their side of the house never works or takes decades. That's why we're so proud to side with choice. We think this gives people more meaning on an individual level, but for the wider community, this liberates them from the shackles of suffering. We're very proud to have this.
Okay, cool. I'd like to thank the Deputy Leader of the Opposition and welcome the government member.
Am I audible? Oh, am I audible?
Yeah, just give me a second. I need to find you and then.
Just give me 5 seconds. Good. I'll start. 3, 2, 3, 1, start. Madam Speaker, understand how education is a function of your ability to access your resources. Right? It's a strong function of your financial condition, which means if you're from a privileged background, you have more choice in exercising the options that you go ahead and pursue. Right? Apart from that, education is also the meaning of education is also different for different people. Right? It means that somebody who's poor, his objective through education, the objective of parents or the community through education is something like being able to rise above this poverty. That is being able to find some meaning above this poverty, right? Whereas if you are from the privileged background, you have the luxury to go ahead and chase other things like your self-actualization, or you doing something that might not result in equal job opportunities, because you always have backups, you always have something to rely upon, right? Understand, man, because the difference between a rich person, a privileged person, and someone else is this, right? The amount of options that they have, the amount of luxury they have to go ahead and pursue something that they might like is very limited, right? But what do we mean by this discourage? From very beginning, these parents are going to tell these people that we genuinely prefer that you pursue these fields only, right? It also means that it goes ahead and asks for different options of jobs are going to be chosen for these people, but how these people will be told that you should go ahead and pursue these jobs, right? And actively told that these other kind of jobs are not going to help you. What we do by this, by active disencouragement of these people in going and pursuing these jobs, is like we go ahead and encourage fewer people to enter these jobs, right? And now we ensure that from the minority communities, the people who go ahead and pursue these jobs are only going to be the people who will be very sure of what they are doing, right? People who are willing to go ahead and make this sort of extra effort because these communities are not capable of providing them themselves. And a few point of rebuttals before I move on to my extension. Understand, Madam Speaker, first of all, the whole idea of education is expensive and how good jobs would lead to these people moving to lower positions, we think is principally problematic, right? First of all, we think that you going and pursuing jobs that go ahead and give you high employability need not always be doctors or engineers, right? We believe jobs that give you proper training in order to like go ahead and work at call centers, in order to go ahead and get yourself jobs that provides basic amenities to your families, are also a part of these employable jobs, right? We believe these are first stages of your going ahead and pursuing these things, and it gives you better opportunities in future in terms of fulfillment, right? But understand the comparative mindset. It's better than going and pursuing something in the name of fulfillment and realizing some few years down the line that you're not able to sustain yourself fully, right? We believe this is very likely going to happen because now these people are at a nascent stage at the ages of 17 and 18 that the forces of me being passionate about something or me wanting to do something will always overpower the rational decisions that these people will make, right? The human construct of interest and passion is so whimsical in human beings, because that it goes and changes at the time you pursue it. A lot of people want to go ahead and pursue music as an activity at the age of 16 or 17, but these kind of things change as you grow up, right? Madam Speaker, we believe this becomes especially important for minorities because they are not at a point where they can go ahead and choose these luxuries. It is something that I'll be elaborating further in my speech, right? But understand the idea of subjectivity of happiness and fulfillment. Madam Speaker, we believe the idea of fulfillment and subjectivity of happiness comes to manifestation where basic amenities like 2 times a meal or basic facilities for your children are satisfied. Right? We believe in a world where these minorities face proper discrimination. These minorities do not get proper opportunities to go ahead and fulfill their basic amenities. We believe this idea is redundant, right? We believe the kind of opportunities that these basic employability jobs and these degrees give them is confidence, is access to resources, is learning certain skills that will help them, right? Is being able to pay off their student loans. Something that is the first step in deriving fulfillment or further options that you want to pursue, right? Obama did not enter into politics directly, right? He went ahead and pursued a profession like law where he knew he would have better options, right? Which meant that when Obama went and pursued law, he always had the whole idea of him pursuing law opened opportunities for him to go ahead and enter into politics, because now he knew that by this basic idea, his basic things is going to be fulfilled. Understand, Madam Speaker, the parent-child relationship is very intricate, especially when it comes to minorities. Right? Unlike the privileged people from privileged backgrounds, parents of minorities have to provide a lot of amenities to these kids. Right? They have to provide proper physical protection to their children. Right? A lot of emotional support to their children because of the kind of discrimination that they go ahead and face in the society. Right? The whole prospect of these parents thinking about the future of their children becomes significantly more important in case of minorities. Right? We also think that this makes these minority families extremely close-knit, which means that these parents go ahead and tell these people what to do, right? We believe it's not an exclusive, right? The whole idea of you should complete your homework on time or you should come back to home on time are things that also happen in this side, right? Understand, Madam Speaker, the idea of free will does not exist initially on both sides, right? Because of the, but however, on our side of the house, we tell you that this increases in future, right? Understand this, right? Even when they go ahead and pursue fields like sociology, etc., there's going to be very few people on the top, right? And very few people on the top rungs of these degrees are also people who have derived this from a function of their privilege, right? Something that the people from minorities do not have at all, right? 3 points of further extension from our side, right? First of all, we talk about how upliftment is crucial for these people. Secondly, we talk about how for parents the compromise is huge in this side, and thirdly, we talk about how the entire community is encouraged to pursue education, right? Understand this, right? How in this particular scenario, when you go ahead and uplift these people by providing them opportunities, by providing them basic amenities, it increases their options, it increases their free will in future, right? Which means that after taking up this job, when they have sufficient money, after going some point down the line, they'll have more choices, they'll have more fulfillment in life after some point, right? The whole idea of so many of these parents sustaining on welfare, they cannot go ahead and sustain on government welfare and say that and go ahead and pursue choices in life that do not give them what they want, right? These are the kind of choices that these people do not have in the first place, right? Understand second idea, how parents of these minorities who go ahead and tell these people that you should go ahead and pursue this are very different from many other communities, right? Understand this, because as parents of minority children, your compromise in these situations is huge. How education for your children is a compromise for yourself, right? A lot of these parents go ahead and work extra hours so that they're able to provide their children the education, right? Therefore, from the point of view of parents, if they actively go ahead and tell these people that you should be able to support us in future, you should be able to support yourself in future when we might not be capable of going ahead and doing these jobs, it's very natural, right? How the whole idea of incentive that these parents have to educate their children is going to be significantly more, right? But understand the whole idea when these parents know that a few years down the line, these kids are going to support them through their salaries, right? But lastly, understand how incentive of educating their children in these communities of minorities is anyway less, right? Because of these ideas. But understand now, when certain people of these communities go ahead and pursue education and then end up getting a job, the whole community is mobilized into thinking that probably education is something that can come ahead and rescue us, right? Now these people are going to go ahead and think that we should also educate our children so that down the line, our children are also going to get more education, are able to sustain their own lives. We believe it becomes significantly important in case of minorities, because now entire community is going to be encouraged to go ahead and pursue education, something that does not happen on their side because education is seen as luxury. Very proud to propose that.
Okay, I'd like to thank the government member and welcome the op member.
Hello. Hello. Can I be seen? Yeah, the line is not that good. Wait a sec. Okay, how about now?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Wait a sec, I need to tell myself. Ladies and gentlemen, we believe that no matter you are rich or poor, you should have the right to gym. What the whole government sides are doing here is to say that, okay, as long as you are poor, you don't deserve a right to gym. Pursuing the economic beneficial position in the society is the only way you are, no matter what you like doing, what you want to pursue as a career, and what you are gymming for. So what proposition are actually standing for here today uniquely as CG is to we standing for the freedom of choice. Noting that we are not only discussing the problem that which way is better, insist your interest or pursue economy here. It's also because noted that in government side, in our side, it's still possible for some people to pursue high economical job, meanwhile some people to pursue like no economic income job. What we are defending here is that, okay, should we allowing the children to actually have such choices, being independently not influenced from their parents to make what they wish, what they like, or rather than enforcing the idea that, okay, economy is the only way for you to get out in this society. So uniquely come from CG. Two things here. First, a comparison like analogies like taking the best scenario from the government side, analogy about the comparison, which side can get better self-actualized, I'm going to tell you that why, even if in the best government case, why is it uniquely impossible for them to shift career, even like direct response to see just okay, more money, more choices argument, as well as okay, why even in the government side, even if they can take a so-called successful position in the society, even if they can get eventually progression, still is not as good as what outside that you start in a position you cannot get a job, and why is still a good result. And second, principle justification of freedom of choice. I'm going to explain to you that why this kind of ideology is actually some kind of a brainwash to the children themselves, push them to more how to make decision here, and why it's so serious. Okay, first, consequence analysis. Notice that, okay, all CG talk about is that, okay, if you have money, you can actually choose whatever you want to do, and you can have more choice after that, etc., etc. Notice that what we are discussing here, notice that, okay, we are discussing a bunch of poor kids that who are in the phase of choosing their major here, right? So what we have to know that is that, ordinarily speaking, a poor kid don't need their parents to discourage them to choose those like low economic income job, right? Like normally they will automatically choose those high economic income jobs to discourage. This scenario, which is to say, this scenario only happen in the situation that these kids actually have a very strong interest, very strong passion, enthusiasm towards those majors, and their parents disagree on it. This is the only case this will happen, because although if you have come from poor, you suffer all the things from poor, unless you got a really strong enthusiastic, you automatically choose to be a lawyer, a doctor, you know that can give you money, right? So in this case, with this scenario, what we can see from here is that, okay, assume that, okay, they say that you can, like assume the CG said, okay, you become a lawyer first, then you gain money, you can play guitar, etc., etc. This thing will not stand at all, because as we can see that with such strong enthusiasm, this kind of people, they not only choosing this kind of so-called happy as a happy, but they rather to choosing a career to pursue, which means that they need to go to music school, they need to go to study like professional school to do it as a lifelong time pursuing. Not to mention on our side is that on the opponent side, government side is that the only successful case is that when they success, they gain money, they give away all their money they gain from the past like career, and then choose another career, which is totally impossible, right? So in second hand, compared with their best case, even if the government side made a large progression in the job like lawyer, etc., etc. What we have told you is that, okay, what we told you is that first, happiness comes from comparison. What we can see here is that not only you are doing a job you don't like, but rather to no matter how high you try, still there are better people because of the privileged position who can easily get more progression than you are here. So what we can see here is that, okay, this kind of sense of unfairness as well as plus the fact that you don't like the job initially will actually push more unsatisfaction, or maybe like think low on yourself on the original position you come from, right? Because you are poor, therefore you get slower progression. These kind of things are more likely to present an unfair and biased situation, even if you get relative result. Okay, even if we believe that, okay, and on our side, even if you are poor, you got no progression at all, still first is what you choose, and second, that's what you like. The way of pursuing a job, creating our starting history itself is already a reward, a alignment to the guy who chooses it here. Okay, moving on to the principle analysis. Notice that here, why it violates the freedom of choice here. Notice that, okay, what we are going to tell that, okay, if the parents' education are going to tell the kids, okay, should discourage them from the low economic income jobs. It's not like, okay, be a lawyer, you cannot be an artist if OG.
Are you giving us a chance to answer PY?
Information, make your right decision, and you are already being still is unfair, because notice that in the position that the parents are actually hold a way higher authority here than you, and second, you are only a high school kids who actually have limited experience, who can believe that yourself is right to hear. So what we
I think this person
Hello?
has.
Hello.
Hello?
Yes, where were I?
Sorry, I think maybe the last like 30, 40 seconds. I'll give you an extra. So on the clock you're at 6 minutes 30, but I'll give you an extra minute. So you have 1 more minute.
But wait, like where were I? Which point I was talking about?
I think for me, you dropped out around the time when you were talking about how pursuing is already a reward. Like pursuing.
Okay. I got it. Thanks. How pursuing itself is already a reward, right? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So moving on to the principal justification on explaining why this is unjustifiably violate the freedom of choice here. Noting that, okay, first, if the parents are going to educate their children to discourage them from choosing a low economic income job, it's not likely that they are going to do that right before you choose the major. But very likely to choose, like, tell you when you are very young to choose that you are, even like when you show your interest in guitar, in music, or in history, etc., they are already told you that you should not choose those kind of job because it's actually like very low income, you should become a lawyer, etc., etc. So what we can see here is that the parents enforcing their idea on their kids when they don't have the capability to do rational decision making, to get information from the society, already being pushed to another end to eliminate themselves when their dream just got started. And second, what's more is that even if we believe that it's right before they choose the major, when they're early or first, they are not that all right, they're still high school kids, don't actually have the capability of the judging all the thing at all. And the second thing here is the parent to them is actually very high authority, especially in a poor family where the parents probably take more responsibility, more burden from them in this case. So it's very difficult for them to judge here. So why it matters is because once we allow this kind of thing to happen, we're actually allowing the slavery between parents to kids. We're also actually saying that, okay, as long as you are poor, you don't deserve a dream. You don't even have a chance to pursue your dream at all. Based on all this, proud to oppose.
Okay, great, thank you. I'd like to thank the opposition member and welcome the government whip.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, just I'd like to thank the government whip and welcome opposition whip to conclude the debate.
Yes, can everybody hear me clearly? Okay.
Yeah.
Judges, we believe that one of the leading essentials of human being is the free development of individuality. That's so proud on the opposition team. So first, 3 things in my speech. First, why the principle of freedom of choice stands in the debate. Second, the comparison on the both world and why we actually can win on the both moderate and the worst case scenario. And the third, the correct criteria for judging this debate. So moving on to the first clashes, the why freedom of choice matters so much in this debate. So we believe there are 3 layers of analysis as stated by my partner. First is that there are chances that the parents' experience cannot match the parents' experience or parents' judgment about this world is wrong, meaning that even though based on the status quo, the parents may believe that some majors may be suitable for the children's future. However, there are chances that, first of all, because of insufficient supply information, they are more likely to have a wrong opinion about what's actually going on in this world or the trend of the job market, resulting their kids to go into a even worse situation. Second of all, even if their judgment about this world is correct, it doesn't necessarily mean that their experience is actually suitable for their children, meaning that they probably perceive their kids will be good at economics. However, there are chances, as the opposition has told like through the whole opposition bench, that the children may actually not suitable for economics and by like being talented on other kind of scenario. However, even in their God's best case scenario, in both like the parents' judgment or their judgment is actually suitable for their kids' development, we can still win on the freedom choice. Why that? Because we told you that the leading essentials of well-being is like free development of individuality. So what we mean that my partner exclusively tell you that, first of all, like human beings are made up of his own human beings' own worldview and the experience is uniquely comes from his experience and his freedom choice. That is, even if in the end of the day, the children who actually go to the expectation of their parents. However, the comparison on our side of the house is that that kid by experiencing things based on their own choice, by discerning what is best for them or what is best for them and what may be best for them in the future. They make the choice based on their own own understanding about the world. Thus like they can fully become they can become the full exercise of as an individual and a free agent of their own. So why this principle can help us? Why this principle can stand in the whole debate? First of all, it can actually explain why it still matters in Gov's best case scenario, where kids do have moved up the social ladder, have a huge amount of money. Because we told you that even in the best case scenario, because the children are catering to their parents' expectation, they go to the way they are moving to the way that does not based on their own freedom choice. That they don't have a full understanding or lack the ability to discern what is actually bad for them. They are deprived of the freedom to do otherwise. Second of all, this can also explain that even if the children do find self-actualization in the Gov case, which is also the best case in opposition side, the freedom choice can still win on that because we told you that is how those individuals can become the full agent of his own overall well-being. Moving on to the scenario comparison, notice that the Govs is never do a fair debate. They always use their best and moderate case to compare with the best case. As the opposition way, we told you, we do admit that in both worlds, best case scenario will be maybe slightly worse compared with the government way. Well, maybe the major we choose may not bring you a significant amount of money compared with a lawyer or like consultant, etc. However, what we can win is on the moderate and worst case scenario. But before that, let's compare the best case scenario. Why this best case scenario in the Gov's world cannot help them win? And the opposition team, they all tell you about the resources and connections, all the things you cannot win. However, what we tell you, what the closing team tell you is, first of all, that how this can change the whole job market into a very competitive situation. That is the assumption of the parents. Like, first, there are some majors that may be unemployable. However, meaning there must have some majors that is so unemployable, meaning they are more likely to forcing their kids to go to a certain limited numbers of majors which they perceive as a good. That is, lots of kids are actually concentrating on that, pushing the competition in that market. So why it is worse? The worst is that in a competition world, you either win by your own talents, which like is based on the rare cases, or you win on the resources. However, those people in the poor areas, they don't actually have like lots of resources in terms to investing their children, etc. Thus, they are less likely to be less competitive in the competition world. However, meaning that they are more likely to move into a moderate case where they have a moderate salary or moderate living condition. So why this bad? My partner tell you the reason it's bad that is because the individual doing a trade-off, that is, they're giving up what they are actually like for the hope of having a higher salary or better life. However, they achieve none of these things. So why it is worse for that? It's worse because it will make that individual even anxious and even depressed and regretful for their choices, because they sacrifice their own individuality without gaining much, without gaining the utility they're actually looking for. That is why we can win on the moderate cases, and even in worst cases that we like neither of the world can have no like high salary. The possibility, as my partner tell you, is that they have better happiness in their own world. They are more likely to have self-fulfilling because they are doing the things they love. They can actually like have like self-satisfaction about their own selves. Based on that, so proud to oppose.